Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video on the Gooners and Gloves Podcast channel. In today's video, it's going to be the 44th Gooners and Gloves Podcast, and I'm going to be giving you guys my thoughts and reactions to the fight between Benavidez and Morrell. This took place for the WBC light heavyweights interim belt held by Benavidez, so Benavidez retained it by unanimous decision. This was a highly entertaining fight, one that I really enjoyed. Massive respect to both men, both undefeated, both, pretty much in their primes, putting their records on the line and giving the fans what we want. This is what we want as boxing fans. We want to see the best fighting the best, and we want to see them giving us entertaining fights, and that's exactly what these two did for the light heavyweight division. So massive respect to both. So in the end, Benavidez retains by unanimous decision. A very, very good performance by Benavidez, a very dominant one, and he remains the interim light heavyweight WBC champion. So pretty much I'm just going to kind of go over a bit of how the fight went, what I thought of each fighter's performance, maybe what I think their next steps are, etc. So with this result, Benavidez improves to 30-0 and Morrell suffers his first defeat. Certainly no shame in losing to Benavidez. Of course, Morrell with a huge experience disadvantage. Benavidez was 29-0 before this fight. Morrell was only 11-0, so an 18-fight disparity. But I must say, Morrell certainly showed a lot of heart. He showed a lot of durability, a lot of toughness, and he definitely didn't make it an easy night's work for Benavidez. Not by any means. You saw by Benavidez's face, it was a struggle, it was a difficult fight, and it's incredibly impressive that Morrell was able to make it such a tough fight and be so durable against a vastly more experienced opponent. So yeah, in terms of what Benavidez did well, first of all, the uppercut. The uppercut was an incredible punch for him throughout the night. I think it was a really good way of him to put pressure. You could tell that there were points when Morrell was, trying to cover up, maybe try and tire Benavidez out, and Benavidez was certainly picking up on this, and he was throwing some really good uppercuts. So I think the uppercut was pretty much like the star punch for Benavidez, just landing it with such precision, such accuracy, and this is to both body and head. So he was landing this uppercut both body and head, and it was just doing so much damage to Morrell throughout the fight and really slowing him down, because Morrell certainly had the hand speed advantage, and that was evident a few times in the night. Secondly, I think Benavidez did really well with the body shots. I think definitely his body shots were on point. He was landing so many, and again, that's a very smart tactic when your opponent is so fast, and obviously Morrell is very fast, very elusive, has very quick hands, so hitting to the body and landing loads of shots is the quickest way to pretty much just suck the air out of their lungs, slow them down, discourage them from moving anymore, and that's exactly what Benavidez was able to do. And as the fight got later on, you could really start to see these body shots take their toll on Morrell, and eventually Benavidez certainly used that to his advantage. The pressure from Benavidez, of course, Benavidez always does well with the pressure. This is pretty much like what he's known for. He's a pressure fighter, and again, he did well, and especially against Morrell, because there were times when Morrell was trying to put some pressure on. So a good way to discourage the other fighter from putting on pressure is to counter back with your own pressure. As soon as they slow down, you're straight on them, and it's pretty much just a way to discourage them from fighting, basically trying to put that pressure on. And I think again Benavidez did well with that. So that's some of what I think Benavidez did well. In terms of Morrell, first of all, the combinations. I think he was landing good combinations for sure. Definitely some solid combinations were being landed. Obviously, Morrell is a southpaw, and I definitely think he used that well to his advantage. He was landing the jab pretty decently, getting in the occasional hook and uppercut, but definitely I think the straight shots, so the right hand jab and the left cross, I think they were definitely good for Morrell throughout the night, and they were definitely affecting Benavidez, and they were definitely scoring at a decent accuracy. The movement. Now, I did mention that he was slowed down by the body shots and the pressure from Benavidez, but before all of that, I think the movement was really good. I think it was throwing off Benavidez's rhythm. I think the feints as well from Morrell, but just kind of like that elusiveness, I think was really good from Morrell. It was really throwing Benavidez off, and at first in the fight, you definitely saw that it was kind of throwing Benavidez off, but as mentioned before, Benavidez downloaded the data and was able to come back with his own. So the straight shots from Morrell, the southpaw boxing, the elusiveness, the movement, I think that's mainly what he did well. And of course, as mentioned before, Morrell certainly put some pressure on himself, which is a good thing to do in a fight like this, to earn the others' respect and to not just allow them to bully you across the ring. In terms of maybe what they didn't do so well, so Benavidez definitely dropping his hands at points and maybe showboating slightly too much, and we did see in round 11 that Morrell was able to knock him down with a really nicely placed punch. It's a bit hard to tell if it truly hit his jaw or not, but end of the day, the referee did rule it a knockdown, and it did seem like Benavidez was maybe getting a bit sloppy, putting his arms down, slightly confident. I think only a bit before that he'd done like an Ali shuffle, so he was feeling confident, and it's understandable. He was dominating the fight, but obviously mistakes like that can be costly, and he was knocked down by Morrell. So that's one thing he probably didn't do the best at. In terms of Morrell, I think one thing he didn't do very well at was I think he covered up a bit too much at points. So at points, he was kind of just allowing himself to be a bit of a sitting duck and a punching bag. And that's definitely not the sort of thing you want to let Benavidez do. Like, you definitely don't want to be essentially, a sitting duck or staying still when it comes to David Benavidez, because Benavidez will take full advantage of that. We know Benavidez has ruthlessly powerful, huge power in his punches, very brutal. We know how many brutal knockouts he's had, and he's got huge power in his hands, and he's a very big guy. So as soon as he sees an opponent kind of just staying still or being a bit of a sitting duck or covering up a bit too much, he would just absolutely lay into them with combinations, and we did see that happen. And fair play, Morrell was very tough and he was able to withstand these combinations, but obviously in terms of the judges' eyes, it's, if you're doing that, you're losing the round and losing it quite significantly. So while yes, I could see what Morrell was trying to do, because Morrell was tiring Benavidez out, and that's what I could tell he was trying to go for, and in fairness, he was successful at points. I think for the most part, it's just never really a good strategy, because someone with as high output, high pressure as Benavidez will take full advantage of that, and that's exactly what happened at numerous points in the fight. Morrell was really just covering up, sitting against the ropes, and yes, Morrell was tough and was withstanding these barrages. It still means that Benavidez was winning the rounds quite comfortably. Hence, and I think this is one of the biggest contributors to why the scorecards were so wide in Benavidez's favor in the end, because when stuff like this happens, it's very hard for the judges to give Morrell the round, even if he's not being hit by that many of them. So that's what I think maybe Morrell didn't do as well, was just too much covering up, too much essentially just too much covering up. In terms of Benavidez, another thing that he probably didn't do the best was just a lot of charging forward. We know Benavidez likes to come forward. We know he never likes to take a step back. He's got, the Mexican boxing warrior mentality. He's got that like Mexican boxing warrior mentality, always go forward, never show any fear. And, obviously, it served him well throughout his career, definitely. I mean, of course, he's 30-0. He's, the interim light heavyweight world champion. He could be fighting Canelo, etc. But in fights like this, where you've got Morrell, who's so just elusive and has that high boxing IQ, he was able to counterpunch a lot, and that's definitely something I noticed with Benavidez in the fight. He was coming forward a fair bit, and he was getting caught with counterpunches from Morrell, because, as we said, Morrell is more what we like to call the technical fighter. The one who studies the sweet science. Hit and no get hit. He has that kind of mentality. Whereas Benavidez, as we know, is a bit more of a brawler, a bit more of a slugger. He always has been. And as a result of that, when he was coming forward, he was getting hit by Morrell. And again, these punches weren't damaging him, but obviously the judges do pick up on that. And that's why the rounds that Morrell won were ones that he won, was essentially due to this counter punching. And that's another thing I forgot to mention. I think Morrell's counter punching was very solid throughout the night. Definitely very good counter punching. So that's another thing that he did well. And yeah, I think that's a bit of a summary, but all in all, throughout the fight, it went, in essence, as much as you'd expect. Morrell definitely showed heart, he showed toughness, he showed, a lot of pride and a lot of, and a lot of things that you can respect. And again, he was slick, he was landing punches, and he was boxing southpaw quite well. But end of the day, Benavidez's experience, size, everything just kind of caught up to Morrell. And end of the day, Benavidez was able to win very comfortably with hard power punches, hard body shots, and ultimately just an iron will that refuses to give up. But massive respect to both. They gave us 12 entertaining rounds. It was a barn burner, it was a barnstormer, and I'm certainly very happy to be back talking about boxing. And it's very nice to be able to talk about such a great fight between two incredible fighters. This is definitely a fight that I'd love to see again at some point. Maybe once Morrell gets some more experience under his belt, then I think this could definitely be a fight that I'd love to see again. End of the day, super entertaining, super, even the build up to the fight was obviously very entertaining, as well as they had obviously a huge rivalry, and it was just a very entertaining build up. But again, after the fight, they shook hands, they hugged each other, and yeah, it was a very tough fight, and it was a great fight to watch. And I extend my respect to both of them. So Benavidez, of course, now remains is pretty much at the top, pretty much at the top of the rankings when it comes to light heavyweights. So the fight that obviously everyone wants to see, myself included, is Benavidez versus Canelo. Benavidez is obviously up for it, but Canelo has said before that he doesn't want to do it because he doesn't want to fight one of his fellow countrymen. But obviously it's a fight that and I'm sure so many of you guys want to see, and I'd love for you guys to comment down below predictions to who you think wins Benavidez versus Canelo. Of course, you can never look past Canelo, absolutely not, but Benavidez is also just so good and in the form of his life that I just think it'd be such a great fight. So hopefully we can see Benavidez and Canelo fight one day. But whether they do or don't, end of the day, they've both achieved a lot, and they've been great credits to the sport. But I'd be lying if I said I don't really want to see Benavidez versus Canelo, because I absolutely do. Definitely really do want to see Benavidez versus Canelo. There's no doubt about it. So yeah, hopefully we can get that made. In terms of Morrell, he could potentially fight the winner of the Boatsy fight. Boatsy. Yeah, so in terms of what Morrell could do, I think that he could fight the winner of the Joshua Boatsy fight that's coming up in February. Let me just quickly remind myself who it was that he's fighting. So I'm just going to quickly look it up. Boatsy. That's it. Callum Smith, of course. Sorry, I don't know how I forgot that. I'm really sorry. There's so many fights coming up. It can be hard to keep track. But yeah, so in terms of who I think Morrell should fight next, I believe that he should fight the winner of Joshua Boatsy versus Callum Smith. That's a huge fight coming up on the highly anticipated card on the 22nd of February with the Benavidez Bivol rematch. And speaking of that card, I am so excited. That's probably the best, most stacked boxing card I've ever seen in my years of watching boxing, so I cannot wait to make a full video on that one. And that one I will be making an actual full video on, where I talk about every single fight, because genuinely every single fight is a main event worthy fight. So yeah, but sorry, got a bit sidetracked there. But in my opinion, I think Benavidez, of course, should try and make the fight with Canelo happen. I think that's the one that we all want to see. And in terms of Morrell, I think a great place for him to go would be to fight the winner of Callum Smith versus Joshua Boatsy. Obviously, that'd be a very entertaining fight in my opinion, so super excited for that. Callum Smith, Joshua Boatsy, that's going to be a great fight, and one of the ones that I cover in my video of the February card. But yeah, that's kind of where I think both should go. Benavidez should obviously fight Canelo, and I think Morrell should try and fight the winner of the Boatsy versus Smith fight. I think just a great way for him to, kind of get back into the ring, try and get his confidence back. They're both beatable opponents to him, so yeah, it'd be a very entertaining fight, that. But that's going to do it for my analysis of this fight. A very entertaining fight, very back and forth, a barnstormer, and big respect to both. Benavidez once again cementing himself as one of, if not the best light heavyweights in the world. Continues to put on great performances, and he certainly put on a very good one against Morrell. But anyway, that is going to do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, I'd like you guys to please let me know down below what you thought of the fight, and also what you think of my propositions for who they should fight. Who do you think Benavidez and Canelo? Sorry, who do you think wins between Benavidez and Canelo, and who do you think wins between Morrell / Boatsy / Callum Smith? So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Your support means the world to me. Feels really good to be back covering boxing content. I must say, I do think boxing was a little bit dry in January, but now we're on to a very big February. There's loads of great fights coming up that I'm really excited to cover for you guys. So yeah, look forward to all that. In terms of what's coming up tomorrow, I've got my Arsenal Man City reaction coming out. So that fight is tonight. That fight. Sorry, I've been talking about boxing a lot. That match, that football match is tonight. Arsenal versus Man City. Super up for this one. Super excited for it. So I will be making a reaction video to that tomorrow. So look forward to that. The fight. I said it again. Sorry. The match. The football match is tonight. So I'm super excited. It's gonna be great. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Remember to like, subscribe, turn on all notifications for more podcasts regularly, and I'll catch you guys on another podcast soon. Bye bye.